Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dongsheng. Corruption in China is nothing new, but corruption buried in local government financing vehicle, aka LGFV, is relatively a new phenomenon and it has been gaining new tractions lately. LGFV is a funding mechanism by a local government in China. It usually exists in the form of an investment company that sells bonds in the bond market. The fund it raises is often to finance real estate development and other local infrastructure projects. In 2019, LGFV bonds constituted 39% of total outstanding corporate bonds in China's domestic bond market. The credit risks vary widely. The bonds that LGFV sells are known as municipal investment bonds or municipal corporate bonds. These bonds are repackaged as wealth management products and sold to individuals. Since local governments in China are not allowed to directly participate in the municipal bond market, LGFVs have played a unique role in securing funding for local governments to develop their economies. Both the number and the debt of LGFVs have soared in recent years, sparking fears about their inability to repay debts as well as subsequent defaults. Now, do you see the similarities between LGFV and the subprime mortgages which caused the 2008-2009 financial meltdown? By the fall of 2008, about 17% of the US homeowners had a mortgage that exceeded the value of their home. In addition, these mortgages were packaged together by the quasi-government agencies Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as well as by Wall Street investment banks. This process of packaging mortgages called securitization is not inherently bad and had been done for decades. Where things went wrong was when Wall Street firms bundled prime and subprime mortgages together in an investment called credit default swaps, CDS, which were touted as being low risk because of the way that the underlying mortgages were pooled together. In China, LGFVs flourished following the 2008 global financial crisis as a way of funding China's infrastructure building spree. It sells bonds that help provincial authorities raise money for increasing spending. The debt raised is kept off the balance sheet of local authorities, yet it carries an implicit government guarantee of repayment. Thus, compared with more transparent local government bonds, debt raised by LGFVs is an invitation to corruption. Chinese central government often refers LGFV-issued debt as implicit local government debt or hidden debt. There is no official data on the total amount of hidden debt in China. Liu Ting is the chief China economist at Nomura. He estimated that it reached 45 trillion yuan at the end of 2020. That was $7 trillion US, equivalent to 44% of China's GDP. In the report published last September, economists at Goldman Sachs said that the total debt of China's LGFVs rose to around 53 trillion yuan or $8.3 trillion US at the end of last year, equal to about 53% of GDP. In 2013, the estimated total hidden debt was 16 trillion yuan. Chinese government revenue from land sales climbed a mere 3.5% last year, a sharp slowdown. Sentiment in the China's property market has been increasingly shaken by the liquidity crisis. State-controlled developers have stepped up to dominate land auctions as private firms stick to the sidelines. But it still cannot revive the sagging demand, and the local governments must scramble for other income sources. To boost incomes, some local governments may be driven to issue more bonds, increasing their debt obligations. They may even hasten plans for a controversial property tax. Local governments' ability to pay off their debts has been a long-standing concern among China's policymakers, and the coronavirus pandemic has exacerbated their financial woes. This is a turbulent year for China. After the Beijing Olympic Games in February, the National People's Congress and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference will meet in March to begin preparations for the Chinese Communist Party's most important event in 2022, its 20th Congress in November. Xi Jinping is expected to use the time to lobby for and secure a third five-year term as CCP leader. Last month, Xi Jinping said, We must insist on punishing corruption with an attitude of zero tolerance. We must be soberly aware that the battle against corruption remains fierce and is showing new characteristics in a new phase. This new wave of anti-corruption campaign focuses on local government funding vehicle. It tackles both political and economic problems that are interwoven at various levels of local government. One stone, two birds. Since the beginning of the year, various provinces across the country have declared their commitment to dig deep into the corruption problem hidden in the risks of local government debt. In a work report published earlier this month by the Commission for Discipline, Inspection and Supervision of Jiangsu Province, one of China's richest provinces, 3 former local officials were named and shamed as typical examples of the corruption problem behind the hidden local debts. One name singled out in the report was Qi Biao, the former deputy director of the Provincial Development and Reform Commission, who was sacked last December and expelled from the Communist Party in June. The disciplinary violations that Qi was convicted of including using power and the position of influence to act as an intermediary for local government financing vehicles, LGFVs, accepting huge amounts of property by charging intermediary fees through intermediary links, and pushing up local government debts. An eye-popping case of debt-related corruption last year involved Dushan County in the southern province of Guizhou, which has the highest debt ratio among provincial governments in China. The government of Dushan oversees a mountainous area with a population of 360,000. As of 2019, it had accumulated 40 billion yuan worth of debt. Its fiscal revenue that year, less than 1 billion yuan. In an official publication for the Commission for Discipline, Inspection and Supervision, it blamed the financial mess on Pan Zhili, who served as the local Communist Party leader from 2010 until his sacking in 2019. During his tenure, Pan initiated various image projects built of political reasons rather than economic considerations. Weed out corrupted officials will sure win popular support for President Xi, but to correct the financial wrongs are much harder. Many of the LGFV debt hold assets of dubious quality, roads to nowhere, empty airports, ghost cities. Reforms to the provincial bond market in 2015 was supposed to make them unnecessary, yet they are still around, and many are heavily involved in primary land development before parcels are sold to developers, making them direct victims of cooling prices. A lot of LGFV debt got repackaged into wealth management products sold to ordinary people. They are also big borrowers from small banks. In other words, they are too big to fail, or if they fail, it will be much worse than 2008 financial crisis. Now land sales are forecast to fall another 20% this year after a bruising 2021. Pandemic lockdowns continue to haunt the economy. The latest official and private data suggests that the manufacturing and service activity are slowing. Many countries are trying to find their feet as they emerge from the pandemic. Mr. Xi is making China's task much harder by sticking to the zero COVID policy. It means China still isn't emerging at all. Even though China appears to have political stability at the top, but the undercurrent will ensure this year of Tiger will be a bumpy one for CCP. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.